All right, quiet on the set.
All right, gotcha.
This weekend, SEC football promo. Take 2. Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's your guy, Mr. Fingers, coming to you live from Zagnif Central.
Hey, and I'm Colin P., your brother from another. What it is, Showbiz?
I will tell you what it is, Showbiz. You guys, welcome to this week's edition of This Week in SEC Football. But before we get started, do us a little favor. If you're watching us on the YouTube, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button if you have not done so already. We appreciate you much. And if you want to be a contributor to the show, a little something to help the cause, right down there in the bottom, in the lower third, in the crawl, rolling across your screen is the address for our Patreon page. We got some great perks for those of you that are contributors and regular viewers of the show, because we appreciate you so very, very much. So, Colin, my man, I think it's time to get this show started. What you say?
My man, let's lay the hammer down.
Oh, you know we gonna do something before 2 something. Club Shay Shay coming right at you right after this. Oh, hello, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls.
What Bama does, what Bama do.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, gang. What is going on? How are you doing? And how are y'all doing? Way back in the cheap seats. Hope you guys are having a great Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. I don't know about y'all, but the weather was absolutely gorgeous here in Oklahoma City. Speaking of, I am your guy, Mr. Fingers, coming to you from Zagnif Central, and that fella over there, that guy, the one in the red ball cap, is the brother from another, the sexy mother Hubbard, the ace of base in the place, in your face. I am very happy to be here because it is my favorite part of the game. That is Colin P. from the DMV in the SEC. What's going on with you, bro Ham?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing? Yeah, you mentioned that nice weather. I wish we had some of that over here. It's been raining all this afternoon, but this week it was pretty nice. How about yourself, sir?
Well, you know, the temperature today topped out at 80-something degrees, and I'm happy for that. That's about a 25-degree variance from where it was about 3 weeks ago. So I'm very, very, very happy for that. I'm pretty sure that about 50,000 screaming women were happy that the weather held off long enough for Backstreet Boys. Or was that last weekend? That was last weekend.
Okay.
My bad. I'm a little behind, but they were dying because the Backstreet Boys had come in. And then the thing got canceled, and that was COVID. And then it was going to do it again, and it got canceled. And it was going to do it a month ago, and it got canceled for the weather. They're like, please, Jesus, just let the weather hold out so we can see the Backstreet Boys. And the Backstreet Boys were able to come and say, Backstreet's back. All right.
I was going to say a bad joke. There's all the women saying, tell me why you canceled.
Oh, man. So we want to welcome you to this week's episode number 24 episodes in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and we're only 2 weeks into the season of This Week in SEC Football. Got a lot to talk about, so we're gonna jump right into it real quick. Oh man, sitting here with my guy Colin P. We're gonna jump right into it, man. There was a lot of stuff happened this week, and none of which was more talked about than the number one team in the nation, the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Oh, yeah.
They go down to Austin. They got Bryce Young, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, versus the up-and-comer Quinn Ewers. And Bama squeaks by Texas. That's right, y'all. Bama squeaked by Texas with a last-second field goal. Will Richard kicked that last-second field goal to win the game. And then, of course, the heir apparent to the throne in Texas, who was supposed to bring them all the way back, Quinn Ewers, out for 4 to 6 weeks with an injury to his AC joint. It looked pretty bad. It wasn't intentional. He drove him to the ground, but once you leave your feet, once the defender got you and he leaves his feet, you don't really have any control over where you're going to land. Right. He landed on that shoulder, came down pretty hard. But it's a fun stat for you before we even get into the game. The fourth quarter started, and he was still the leading passer amongst all passers for the game. He was 9 of 13 for 134 yards. The fourth quarter rolled around, and that's how well he was doing. He was still leading all passes with 134 yards. So what's that tell you?
Oh yeah. He was throwing the ball pretty well. I don't know if it was a testament to, or if it was Alabama's defense or secondary, but he was. I know there was one pass. He threw out, at least what I can remember, 2 dimes. They were phenomenal passes. But saying that, the backup that came in, he did well, like right off the jump.
Oh, Hudson Card. Well, actually, according to our good friend, and Let's Talk Football family member, the guy, the Godfather, Sean Spencer, the Shout Out King, the Hudson Card actually was going to be the starter until Quinn Ewers made his commitment. At this point, with him being out 4 to 6 weeks, that means he could be back for the game against Texas A&M, or more than likely for. Wait a minute. Lord have mercy. I'm looking at the wrong doggone schedule there. I'm looking at the schedule for Alabama Crimson Tide. So let's see here. So that means about 4 weeks. That means he'll be back in time enough for he'll either be back in time enough for Red River against Oklahoma on October 8th, or Iowa State, Texas. If he's out a little longer, he'll be back in time enough for the game against Oklahoma State. We got a special guest joining us today. So what we're going to do is we're going to deviate a little bit from the program, what we had lined up. And we're going to go ahead and bring on our special guest member of the Let's Talk Football family of shows, co-host of Washington Football Weekly. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him. It's our guy, South Carolina resident, Mr. Will Kramer. How you doing, brother? Good to see you, man.
What's going on? How we doing? Oh, man, I got to get this camera fixed with my shirt here. Got to get some representation.
What's going on, my man?
Hey, man. How are y'all doing?
Oh, we're doing great, man. We're doing great. How's the family doing, brother?
They good. Boys are sleeping, so that's important.
I know how that is.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch it up a little bit. We had a listen, y'all. I know I say 6:30, but generally speaking, I am just walking in the door not long before we're supposed to go on the air. So forgive us if we tend to be repeatedly a little bit late going on. We had anticipated we would be good and into our curriculum before you came on. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump down to your game and we're gonna talk about a certain team from South Carolina. I think. Do you think maybe it was just the spirit of Sir Big Spur just revolting because they renamed him the Colonel again? But the Arkansas game, man, 30-44. What do you got? What do you got to say about that, man? How you feeling about that?
Saw it coming. Not surprised. The program is still building, and the biggest concern they have right now is on defense. There's no depth, and they've got some players on defense, but they don't have enough on the line. They don't have enough at linebacker, and a team like Arkansas that wants to ground and pound you is that's a difficult recipe for South Carolina. So I'm not surprised. And I mean, I didn't really think they were going to win it anyway. But we saw some things that were exciting on offense where it's like there's stuff there. There's plays to be made that really could have affected the outcome and the momentum that they were just inches away from making. So that, but honestly, I was expecting the loss. So it didn't surprise me one bit.
But did you think it was going to go ahead, Colin?
No, I was going to say, Spencer. I was going to mention. You said some good things on offense. Spencer Rattler played a better game, I thought, this week than he did last week. He had 376 yards. 1 touchdown and 1 pick. But does he have the protection he needs on the offensive line, or is that another area that they need to work on? But because it looked like 30, this high scoring game, 44-30, against Arkansas. If you can win those types of games, but you got to be able to go touchdown for touchdown. You got to go, back and forth. You can't let them get ahead. But what kind of improvement do you see in Rattler? Do you think it's going to take him a little bit longer to kind of get accustomed to being in South Carolina?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He does not have the offensive line right now working together to help him out. We saw that against Georgia State. They were god awful against Georgia State. And so it's always going to be challenging for him. And that's a veteran offensive line. These aren't freshmen, sophomores that are playing. It just might be that they're just not good enough, to be honest with you. And so I think that's going to be a challenge the entire season. He definitely played better in week 2. He had the weapon, Dakarian Joyner was back for him. But I also think, and they talked about this, they were holding back a little bit against Georgia State, knowing that what was coming in weeks 2 and 3, they didn't want to show the entire playbook. And I think you saw a little bit. So you saw him and the offense play a little bit better because he had more weapons. And I think they tried to exploit things a little bit more. But as far as how is he going to do, I'll tell you this. I was shocked that he chose to go to South Carolina. And I was shocked because you've got 1 year to prove yourself to go to the NFL, in my opinion. I don't think he's a 2-year player there. And I don't think this program is built to showcase yourself at the next level, or when you see some of these guys, Justin Fields goes from Georgia to Ohio State and plays immediately. You've got a couple other guys that get nationwide attention. And so when I was like, what? He chose South Carolina? He's coming here? All right. That type of thing. I didn't really know from his career trajectory if that was the right move or not.
Right. And then from conference to conference, I'm saying, how the difference in the conference, how would it, I was wondering how it would affect him as well. Because, SEC, as well as that it's fast paced. I think it's faster than most of the other conferences, and how he would be able to, fair coming to the SEC,
Well, and maybe that can be like that he can show that he can move from a conference that plays no defense to a conference that certainly plays defense and shows that, I don't think the team's going to have that great of a season. We'll see if they get it. We can go a little bit more into it, but beyond 7-6, 8-5. But if he shows that he's one of the better players in it, maybe that's showcasing him for the NFL, where it's like, when you're on a lot bit more even competition, can you make players better? Can you make, still play at a high level? Because, with the bad offensive line that they have, which some of their weapons aren't really showing up on offense as well, it's going to be tough sledding for him this season. He's in for a tough season.
Now, let's see. Gosh, I hate to say it, but Sean was on with me the week that we did your projection. We had you guys at 5 and 7. Do you think that that's realistic, or you think you're going to be able to pull out a few more wins and maybe at least 500 it out, or get finished up over 500?
Probably at least 500, because you're looking here at what Georgia State and Charlotte is 2, South Carolina State is 3, then you've got Vandy and Missouri. So that's your 5 right there, I think, if my math is correct. So, yeah, I think I'm looking at like 7 and 6 maybe. It's like, they're going to lose against Arkansas. They did. They're going to lose this week against Georgia. They're going to lose against Clemson. They can hype it up all they want. The team's getting better, but they're not ready, even with Clemson kind of struggling. So there's 3 losses right there. Then you've got Tennessee, Kentucky, A&M, and Florida.
I don't know. The way A&M played this past Saturday, y'all might pull that one off. I might have to change my projection.
They sure fell. They're ranked, 24th now? It's 24th. Looking like. Yeah. So I mean, actually, when you first said that, when you guys say 5-8, I was kind of be like, what are you talking about? But looking at the schedule, I mean, it's one of those like they could go from 5 wins to 7 wins, maybe even 8, and it's just hard to predict.
And the big thing with us is that the predictions that we made were based on what we saw the year previous with all the teams that we had seen, not having seen anybody play at all yet this season. So, there may be some. I mean, I got a good feeling there's a lot of teams that we did projections for that are going to look a lot different at the end of the season.
What did you put Florida at? Can you remember how many wins?
I don't. You know what? I don't have. I really needed to have put this on a spreadsheet. I'm looking at pages and pages of notes that I have here. Yeah, I have pages and pages of notes. I started a spreadsheet, and the work got in the way, and I never got back around to getting a spreadsheet together. So I don't even have my.
Because
I think. No, I think we put them up. I think we put them a couple games over 500. I think, if I remember right, like maybe 8 games.
8 games.
I think we might have.
8 games to Florida.
Nah, I'm thinking more like 7-5 is what I'm thinking. I mean, Kentucky.
7-8.
Yeah, I don't know about 8. I'm thinking 7-5 max.
Yeah.
And the only reason I would say that is because Napier, and he had that defensive coordinator, and I thought the defense would do a little better than they've shown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The different packages and that kind of stuff since he coached under him before. So I was really surprised. Kentucky obviously, but Kentucky looked at. I mean, I don't know whether Kentucky was that good or Florida was just playing that bad. And it just,
I really thought the Florida was getting way overhyped this season, and Richardson certainly looks like a talent, but he's got to grow, and he's not there.
He's still. I think Richardson is still just under tier 2 as a quarterback. I think he's got the potential to be a really good backup quarterback, but I don't see him being a tier 1 guy. Let's roll back on this thing here, man. I don't mean to rub salt in the wound, but it's kind of hard to, it's really hard to generate any kind of momentum. You did have one bright spot, well, 2 bright spots. I mean, Spencer Rattler's with 376 yards, but you also had Antoine Wells with 189 yards receiving, but that was like your lone receiving touchdown. And then your defense let Arkansas run for 256. So is there? I mean, the caveat to being a college team is it's not like you can go around the league and pick up free agents and things like that. And I'm pretty sure there's no transfers during the season. So, like, what do you think that what do you think the Beamer has to do to get these guys motivated and get them up? Because now next week you guys are in Athens. No, we're coming to see you. I'm sorry. Next week we come to see you guys. And so, I mean, what did you do? Shouts out to our guy Ashley AJ Johnson watching us on the Facebook. Thank you for joining in, sir. Feel free to jump in the comments. Those of you just joining, welcome to This Week in SEC Football. I'm Mr. Finkers. That man right there is Kyler P from the DMV, and this fella right down here, that handsome fella. On his show, they sometimes use a purple vegetable to describe him from all the way from Carolina. Carolina is our guy Will Kramer. Belated happy birthday greetings to you, sir.
There you go. I was going to say happy birthday,
too,
my friend.
This way.
Man.
Nope.
There we go. Birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard figuring out where to point when everybody's, when you got more than 2 people on the screen there.
Right.
We're going to take a quick pause for the cause, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back if we can ever get the thing to pull up. There it is. Here it goes. And so you guys hang tight. We'll be back with more This Week in SEC Football. And we are back. See, you didn't get back fast enough, man. You got it's 30 seconds. That's all you got.
Try to time it. Didn't work.
30 seconds. That's all you got. Welcome back this weekend SEC football with our guest Will Kramer from Washington Football Weekly, joining us today on This Week in SEC Football, which I've already said twice. You guys are on Thursday nights. Am I correct? Wednesday. Oh my God! You know what? The holiday. I'm still a day behind. They're on Wednesday nights. I feel like the judge from My Cousin Vinny. What is a Ute? So, how are you really, honestly? How are you feeling just in terms of performance about next week's matchup?
So, all right. So let's go back to the first part of your question of what are we going to do on offense? What are we going to do on defense to get ready? On offense, I think it's sort of I hate this phrase, but I think it rings true. Trust the process. All right. Because, the offensive line is experienced. You've got to think that they can maybe come together a little bit more. But I think there are weapons on offense that aren't showing up yet. Up till last year, I would have told you that Josh Vann was a huge recruiting disappointment. And when Muschamp got him, it was a big deal because I'm pretty sure he got him over going to Georgia and a couple other schools. It was a big deal here that he reeled him in, and he said, this guy's going to be something. And for his, I think, 2 years on campus, he was nothing. And no one really knew much about him or cared much about him last year. And all of a sudden, he blossomed. Well, he's been very silent this season so far. So you're going in, your leading best receiver, maybe most talented player, who came back to showcase himself for the NFL, hasn't. So right there, it's like, well, we've got something that can generate, some excitement, some plays that isn't being utilized yet. They've got two tight ends. They've got Jaheim Bell, who's kind of the jack of all trades. He'll probably be a darling at the NFL Combine, and people are going to really want him because he can run, he can catch the ball. He's real tough to cover. But they also got this other guy that came from Oklahoma, who was the one who recruited Rattler, which is Austin Stogner. And now he's a little bit slower out there than I thought, but they've got a 2 tight end system that they could work a little bit more than they had. They used it more last week. So what I'm trying to say is there's talent out there that can be utilized. Against Arkansas, they had 2 deep balls thrown to number 10's the receiver, and they were both really close. And the announcer was even talking about on one of them, Spencer really needs to be leading the receiver a little bit more because he's beat. So the point is they've got the ability to make some big plays. They just haven't gotten them yet. And I think when you go up against a team like Georgia, it's going to have to be, you're going to have to keep the stadium into it. You're going to have to keep the team into it. And you're going to have to make plays to go toe to toe with them. Because otherwise this could be a boat race real quick. That's on offense. To answer your defensive question, I don't know. Because they just lost their pass rusher, Jordan Strawn, number 7, tore his ACL against Arkansas. He's out. They just lost their middle linebacker, Mo Kaba, tore his ACL. He's out. And this is the depth part, that they don't have that built in yet. Will Muschamp prided himself on sending guys to the league. Uh-oh.
No, we're here.
Oh, I just saw myself. Gotcha. Okay. I'm just looking at myself right now.
Yeah, you're in the spotlight. Your mic, sir.
All right. Well, Will Muschamp, he had a lot of pride about who he could send to the league, and he'd have 1 or 2 big players. But the problem was he wasn't really building behind him, and therefore, like, depth is a concern. And when Beamer got here, he said we got to refill this cupboard. So I don't know what they're going to do on defense to stop you guys. And that's where it's like, it's a 16-point spread. I don't know if it's possible, other than, it's college football. We saw what happened last week. We saw a couple years ago down in Athens, Will Muschamp pulled off the upset. So it's just one of these things where it's like, if we stick toe to toe on offense and make some plays, that we have some playmakers. If they make the plays, it may be enough to kind of keep the crowd into it, keep the team feeding, and just kind of play the game of their lives, basically, would be how I say, what is their chances this week and how?
The perfect storm, man.
Yeah.
And I was wondering also. Well, I didn't notice, but did you guys have any players from transfer portal? I mean, how active was South Carolina in the transfer portal, getting anyone? Do you know?
Well, the leading receiver last week, what was his name? Juice Wells. He actually came from James Madison. So he was.
His nickname is Juice, huh?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's Juice Wells. And then the tight end Austin Stogner, came from Oklahoma, and then obviously the biggie. So they ended up being a little bit more active than I thought. We'll have to see. I mean, they need, unlike basketball, where you kind of retool pretty quickly some of these programs, they need a lot of parts. This is a program that's still building. Beamer's, he's got a lot of excitement, but it's going to take some time to be able to compete. I'm not even going up to the Georgia level right now, but just honestly to be able to compete where Kentucky is, where Tennessee claims to be right now in that top 15, top 20. I think they're going to get there, but
they need more mustard. A little more mustard to get them there.
Yeah.
So I mean to say, Georgia's actually been down. We may have like 10 wins. It's been quote unquote rebuilding and that kind of stuff. We've been. I mean, I think every SEC team has gone through that. It's just have to grin and bear it until it comes to fruition. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to trust the process, like you said. So
that was a very long rebuild from Vince Dooley all the way to Mark Richt and then eventually to Kirby Smart. So hopefully y'all don't have to wait that long. Will, you got time to stick around with us, man? We still got plenty of time. Okay, good deal. Well, we're going to roll this right over since you were talking about Georgia. This past Saturday, a lot of people said it was a snooze fest. Georgia, and we're just going to gloss this one over because not that, we love to talk about our dogs, but we saw how this went. We knew how this was going to go. Sanford Bulldogs roll into Sanford Stadium.
That's hard to say.
Yeah. So the Sanford Bulldogs roll on the Dooley Field between the hedges to meet the Dogs of Georgia. God, that is a mouthful. 33-0 was the final total. They were up 30-0 at halftime. A lot of chitter chat on all platforms about Georgia looking sloppy, looking tired, looking behind themselves a little bit. Backstory that a lot of people didn't pay any attention to. They probably missed because they're flipping a lot of channels. When Kirby Smart took his first job in 2000, he was the defensive backs coach for Valdosta State. His coach's name, his boss's name was Chris Hatcher. Chris Hatcher is currently the coach at Sanford. So it kind of was a gentleman handshake deal between the two of them. He didn't want to embarrass his old friend, especially his first boss. He didn't want to risk losing any of his key players because we did a lot of that last year, both with training camp and early in the season. Go out, play a good, clean game, keep it ahead. I believe, Colin, you said there was some kind of gentleman's deal. They did a 12-minute fourth quarter. Is that right?
Yeah, they did that. And plus, I wanted to add that Kirby Smart's dad actually played for Sanford.
Okay. So basically, that's what you got there. The Dogs have the Gamecocks coming up next week. We're rolling down to South Carolina. Looking forward to that action. We'll see what happens. Then
we're rolling up to South Carolina. Ain't no down going here. We're coming up to Columbia.
I'm thinking, I still think like I live in Virginia, man. Even
right.
though I'm in Oklahoma.
That's what I figured. I heard that last week, and I was like, no, he didn't say that right.
Uptown, downtown, it isn't South. It's uptown.
Uptown funk. We gonna bring the Uptown funk to Columbia. That's what's going on.
Because we go down to Athens.
We're kind of going sideways.
Yeah, I love visiting Athens.
Oh,
I would love to go to this game.
Athens is an absolutely awesome college town. I mean, I spent my freshman year there, walking up underneath the arch, going downtown to some of the clubs. I didn't go to any of them. I wasn't old enough to get into any of the spots when REM was still playing down there. Eating at the Varsity. The absolute best Zaxby's in all of existence is the one in Athens, Georgia. So, and now granted, the Varsity, there ain't nothing special about the Varsity. It's a hot dog with some cheap chili, but it's a Varsity hot dog in Athens. It's more of this where you're hanging out than what you're eating. So yeah, lots of fun, lots of fun. Looking forward to that matchup this coming Saturday. All right, we're gonna keep this thing moving. We're a little bit behind the power curve, but we can push through these. Let's jump on this Texas game, this Texas Bama game, or should I say Bama Texas? Colin, coming to you first. Thoughts, man?
Well, I mean, I joined Sean and the rest of the college football crew, and that's where my upset pick. And I actually picked this one. I actually picked that Texas was gonna beat Alabama, and it came down to the wire. And I guess Texas just left a little too much time on the clock. But it was a great game. I mean, I thought all in all, but I don't know, some calls could have gone, either way or whatever. But it seemed like Bryce Young. I don't know if he's true to form as he was last year. I'm seeing a little missteps from him. But Texas definitely showed me something.
Yeah,
I didn't necessarily see. I mean, I didn't know. I kind of felt like they were going to win, and on this person, they probably should have. There's been several misplays, but yeah. What did you guys think?
Well, I got a question for you.
go ahead.
You put the onus on Bryce Young, but it kind of sounds like to me that Saban is frustrated with his receivers right now. What do you think's going on with that offense?
Well, I mean,
go ahead. I was going to say, Bama has a tendency to roll a lot of guys over, and up until this season, honestly, Nick Saban has been the king of the reload. You know what I mean? Like there was nobody. I mean, nobody reloads better than Nick Saban. I mean, in order to be able to win a national championship every single other year since you was at this school, just about, and then just come in and dominate. Maybe not as dominant as the 01 Canes, Hurricanes, but just to come in and dominate, slap people upside the head, or as dominant as the 2019 Tigers. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I think maybe there may be, since the kids are making more money going to other schools now, maybe they're not as able to pull some of that talent. I mean, one of the biggest things was Deion Sanders being able to pull that recruit to Jackson State. So I really don't know what's going on with the offense. Their other strength where they're coming up short this year so far, running back. That's also been a staple, a Nick Saban staple. When you think about the studs that have come out of Alabama, nobody's really emerged yet. Now, is it too early to say? It's week 2. Who knows? It's week 2. So there may be somebody to emerge. But what I have not seen is a dominant running back or a really outstanding receiver yet. So,
which are his staples every year, like you said.
Yeah, I was going to mention Will, like to what you just said about the receivers. Burton went over there, transferred from Georgia to Alabama.
Oh God! And what did he do? What did he do Saturday? Nothing.
2 catches for 10 yards.
He did nothing. I got the air horn for Burton just because he didn't put in. He was not really productive. The other thing is, the defense is not as stout as it normally is. I mean, Texas was pretty much able to score at will, and they held. Listen, just for frame of reference, Texas was 3-12 on third down conversions, and they still only lost by that field goal at the end of the game. I mean, normally when you hold a team, that team's not winning. That team's not even in the ballpark when the fourth quarter rolls around. So. I do think the kicker for Texas, literally, was that Auburn missed that. I think it was a third quarter field goal. That was a big difference. I mean, everything else, Ewers going out, Hudson Card coming in playing like a man possessed on a hobbled leg. He came in able-bodied and he was hobbled by the end of the game. I don't know. I think. Giving an extra player or two in Auburn hitting that kick, and maybe somebody being able to follow up on that missed tackle on that Bryce scramble, we're talking a whole different story today. An entirely different story.
Yeah, I mean, Bama did what they normally do. They just stick around and they just outlast their opponent. Every time you see them play somebody, they could be down. I mean, us as a perfect example. We sit there and the first time we ever played actually 4 complete quarters of football was last year, at the national championship that I've seen, and that's what it takes to beat Alabama. And then Texas, I didn't see any kind of slowing down. They were blitzing, they were coming at Bryce. Had him hurried several times and had him dead to right sometimes, but missed tackles. But to your point, Bryce Young only had like 213 yards and 1 touchdown. But is that attributed to him? I don't know, because he was getting pressured. He was hitting a lot.
He was getting hit a lot. That run defense, the big difference is the run defense versus the pass defense, because once they abandoned the run and they went straight to that 2-minute offense and just dump pass here, dump pass there, wide receiver screen right, wide receiver screen left, they were able to march down the field. So, just like Colin likes to say all the time.
And your Bama does what Bama do. Exactly.
I don't know why that clip took so long to load up. It just was like, nope, I'm not starting yet. Am I going to start? Yeah, okay, there we go. So anyway, anyhow, that's going to be the talk. And the thing is that should have been the talk of the day for the weekend, but that was not the talk of the day for the weekend. The talk of the day was upsets. Yeah. Mainly. Oh, wait a minute. That wasn't the team that beat them. Hold on. Let me change that, because that's not right. I was getting ready to embarrass myself. Georgia Southern beat another team. Georgia Southern beat Nebraska. Yeah. There we go. I almost put up an incorrect, and Sean would have eaten me alive if I put it up there, because he loves to get me for those. Appalachian State. How about those Mountaineers?
Yeah.
Yeah. After all that talk Jimbo Fisher did about Nick Saban and the NIL and the paying players and having the number, and then beating his chest about the #1 recruiting team and how he'd kick Saban's ass in golf, and they paid a team $1.25 million and flew them to College Station to lose to Appalachian State. So what you got on that, Will?
App State's one of those programs, where you just buyer beware if you're going to schedule them. It's one of those things where it's good to have a little bit more competition than just scheduling like Tarleton State, for A&M out there and keeping the money in house. But you got to know that, they've got a solid program, and they may see things where they're going to say, this is going to make our season. This is going to make our decade. This is going to be a huge game for us. And so it's all about sometimes who wants it more. Yeah. And you get a decent team there who sees the opportunity, and they're going to be like, hey, we can hang with these guys, and we can make a statement here. Let's do it. And you may just see players like, A&M and Smiths who are talking about where they're just kind of overlooking the game, and then they get caught, and it's all of a sudden like, oh wait, it's too late.
Yeah, you do not ever. You played football, sir. I played football. Colin, you said you played ball too, right?
No. I played little league ball. I was too nice for that.
But the one thing Coach always said is you don't ever look past an opponent, and I think A&M was already looking past. Oh yeah, A&M was looking.
And you run the risk of that, right?
And you can't do that because when they took down Michigan, that was the biggest news. That was the story of the year when they took down Michigan, because Michigan was supposed to stomp a mud hole in them, and they looked past them. They held Texas A&M to 186 total yards the whole game.
Right.
Yeah, King only had 97 yards.
So, yeah, they only got it at. I think if I looked at that right, they only ran 38 plays the whole game. They held the time of possession for that game. What was the time of possession for? 18 minutes. They basically let Texas A&M have the ball for the first quarter. They spotted them one quarter, and then they gave them the 3 minutes into the second quarter and said, "Okay, we got the rest. Y'all can sit down now." That was basically it. And all Jimbo could do was look embarrassed, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna have. I haven't seen the presser yet. I'm pretty sure he's gonna have a lot to say. But what's your takeaway from this on this, Colin?
Oh, just basically what Will said, dude. When you're playing these supposed cupcakes, we've seen it with Georgia State and Georgia Southern. You may look past them and say they're not. They're just little cupcake games. But you've got to know that you got to have in your mind that you're playing a formidable opponent. And it surprised me that how how the I guess the lack of offense, the lack of offense and defense that even let App State to even be in this game. I mean, this game should have been over. In our reality, it should have been over at halftime.
Yeah.
But and then like Sean said, I mean, they hung 40 on North Carolina, UNC. So I mean, it's one of those up and coming programs, and you love to see it for them. But like Will said, you don't look past anybody. Like I mean, they could be
nobody.
Yeah, I mean, you could look, but I mean, they could be this team that you think you're going to stomp, and what happens can happen. So
yeah,
you got to know your opponent, and if you did your history, you would look back and see App State and seeing who is this team. Are they some team from the Sun Belt that is 1AA, or are they the team that head coach of Louisville came from there, head coach of Mizzou came from there, and basically like this is the stepping stone to the next program. So you gotta, and it comes down to also who is like it's hunger. A couple of years ago, App State came into Columbia and beat the snot out of the Gamecocks, and they were talking so much smack, but it was all about South Carolina. Like this game, like against A&M, was flat. And one team wanted it more because it had a bigger ramification in them playing. And it's like you just got to know who's coming to town. Are you playing Samford, where you can play most of your backups and still beat them? Or are you going to take a team who really is actually, if they're having their everything working that day, could be a challenge.
And you feel like you feel like you want to think that they did that, but clearly they didn't. I don't know. I mean, do you think it was? Obviously it was a surprise, but I mean, I didn't get it. I knew they were good, but I mean, clearly they didn't do their research. Because
I was not. Appalachian, ever since App State beat Michigan, every time App State plays anybody, I say they could beat. Like App State is one of those teams that I like to call sneaky good, because they can beat and go toe to toe with any team when they get their dander up. They can go toe to toe with any team in the nation. Big boys, small boys, somebody in the middle. And they proved it again. Like this is their I think this is their second top 10 win since Michigan many moons ago. But I mean, you saw what they did to North Carolina the week prior. So they're not any slouch. So now
you talk about like the want. Sorry, I interrupted you on that. But you talk about the want. And like you said, App State is a very quality program. And when these teams from North Carolina, like UNC, or I think they played Duke last year, when these bigger schools go up and play against them, there's something there for them to prove like we are the best program in the state. So it's like buyer beware in that situation.
100%. 100%. So, and then as a result, they wind up falling 18 spots because they were winning ranked number 6, I believe. They're now down to 24, and they're up next against number 13 Miami, who is streaking right now and looking pretty doggone good. So Jimbo's going to have to get in their butts. I knew Sean was going to say it. I got you, Sean. I got you, Sean. Even though I got this on, just pretend that this is Powder Blue Tar Heels. Yeah, we got you, brother. We got you, man. That's our guy, Sean Spencer.
It's the other Carolina for him. I'm sorry, buddy.
Hey, don't make Petey Pablo come up in here. So they got the number 13 Miami up next, and that is just going to be that's going to be something to see. So we're moving into that gives us the opportunity to talk about the Sun Belt. How about the Sun Belt this weekend? We normally say, how about them dogs? How about the Sun Belt this weekend?
Yes.
3 upsets this weekend. Not only does Appalachian State go into College Station and beat Texas A&M, another team from Georgia gets flown out to Lincoln and beat a man so bad that they were singing "You about to lose your job" as they was leaving the tunnel.
Yeah.
And Nebraska loses to the Georgia Southern Eagles, who I don't follow the Eagles like I follow the Dogs, but the Eagles were right down the street from me in Statesboro growing up, and their head coach that led them to prominence. Well, how long you been in South Carolina?
Since 2008.
Okay, so maybe you might be a little young to remember this, but Georgia Southern was the reigning national champion. They just used to kill that division every year. Tracy Ham,
Yeah.
their head coach, when they brought that program back, was the legendary Irk Russell, who engineered the Junkyard Dog defense of the 1980 national championship Dogs. He won like what 3-4 championships down there, Colin, and just was in the
Yeah.
running every year. And the program has kind of lapsed. But here's the thing: again, not overlooking your opponents. Their coach, none other than Clay Helton, who was run up out of South Carolina. Southern California. I caught it this time, Sean. He got run up out of Southern California, and now he's doing big things. I think what it is, it's a matter of some of these big name schools, some of these smaller coaches from smaller schools some coaches are better fit to coach smaller schools, which is where Scott Frost was. If he'd stayed there,
Yes.
they probably would have. Their program would be, but hey, it's hard to turn down that Nebraska money. But they must have wanted him out of town bad, because if they had waited another couple weeks, they could have paid him, what was it, several millions dollars less. But they were like, nah,
Really?
pack your stuff.
It's a PR thing, getting him out
yeah.
of there. But
Everybody-
I think it's interesting you mentioned about like smaller schools. Let's not forget, he was in Florida. But he was the first guy to finally make something out of Central Florida.
Yes.
George O'Leary was doing something, but Central Florida has like 50,000 kids that go there. We ain't talking about your $10,000-$15,000 state school down the road. It's a big school, and it's like I was sitting there wondering, when is this school going to start hitting it nationally? And he did. So it's like it's a very fertile ground that he was recruiting from.
Yeah, I mean, Florida is. I mean, IMG Academies in Florida, is it not?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the most prominent of high schools in the country. Right alongside, when you hear IMG, you hear DeMatha, and then there's a few others that I cannot remember off the top of my head, but those are the top two that I think of anytime I think. As a matter of fact, what's our guy Colin Smith from Savannah that transferred down to IMG that's now playing at Georgia? I can't think of his name. I think his name is Nolan Smith, I believe his name is. Anyways, we're going to keep this thing moving on along, because also not only did Georgia Southern go to Lincoln and lay the lumber down, Marshall beats Notre Dame.
Yeah.
How long do you think they give Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame?
Well, I don't know. I think they have to give him a little bit of time, because I mean it wasn't his choice for him being there. That he was just kind of thrown in that position, and I don't think Brian Kelly took off, kind of a spur of the moment type deal, and left everybody kind of hanging, I guess you could say. But I mean, this was a surprise loss again. To Marshall. I mean, it's. I think they're going to hang on to him for a little while. I think he maybe has 1 or 2, maybe 3 more games. Depending on what he does, obviously. If he
2 or 3 more games, it's his first
Few
season.
more games, man. You got to give him a chance to bring in some.
You got to at least give him a first. You got to. I mean, at least a
don't give
first
him a year.
first
I mean, like I was going
Oh,
to say,
I think you give him 2 to 3 years at a minimum.
Because think about it, he took the program over with kids that were recruited all by Brian Kelly. So you got to at least give him a couple of years, because some of his kids some of them are going to transfer, some are going to go to the league. And then after that, he's going to start bringing kids in. So at a minimum, give him 3 years to see what he can build. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So at least give him a chance to see what he can build. It's just my thought. My thought process is, Notre Dame has this grand tradition of being this winning school, and Lou Holtz definitely spoiled those guys. He definitely spoiled the Notre Dame faithful. So that's another school that's looking for. Matter of fact, this is something I want to ask you guys. I'm going to switch tracks for a second. Do you think that there are too many programs that are focusing on, let's make this we want this program to be like it used to be, instead of focusing on, okay, we realize that we have something missing, whether it's a school like Nebraska, who used to be a very prominent school, who has been on a struggle bus for a while, or a program like Notre Dame, who's right there at the cusp and just can't seem to get over the hump, much like another team that Colin and I love very much. So do you think that they are focusing too hard on let's make it like it used to be, versus we're not going to scrap everything, but let's just start from here and build a foundation to get to where we want to be? What are your thoughts on that? I'm gonna come to you first, Colin.
Well, no, I was going to go back. I'll answer that in a second. But I mean, what I was meaning by 3 or 4 more games. Are they going to keep him as the head coach? You guys seem to think that he's going to be there for give him 3 years. That he was kind of just next man in line, right? So he was next man in line for the.
Well, he interviewed and they chose him. So like, I mean,
okay, so
he's not just interim. He was chosen.
Okay.
Yeah,
makes sense. I'm sorry. All right.
This isn't the king of Westeros passed away and Joffrey Lannister is not a king.
I got you.
I wish I knew that reference. No idea what you're talking about.
Game of Thrones. I didn't want to say Queen Elizabeth passing away because I didn't want nobody coming for it. But yeah,
too early.
But still, yeah.
But to answer the question, is I mean, yeah, it'd be great. I mean, tradition is tradition. I mean, I don't necessarily see that. Me personally, I mean, it would be great to get back to being a winning team and a winning college, and but it's all about building something new. I mean, players have different different talents, and you got to cater to those talents. You got to build around it. I mean, you got to build around the quarterback sometimes, and you got to just find the missing pieces and just try to get in where you fit in. I mean, I don't know about getting back to the old days. I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's winning, So I mean, I don't know if I see anything.
But that's one of those things that a lot of these college programs are focusing on, though, because you think about these programs that were. I mean, Nebraska was every bit as dominant in its day as Ohio State and Alabama, and the top tiers are now. And a lot of these, but you still have a lot of people that are still alive that remember the glory days. I mean, Will, you and Sean talk about it all the time with your favorite pro sports franchise, where you got all of these people that remember the glory days and they want the glory days. But that's my question is, has that started to bleed over into college now, especially with all these big money boosters that if you can't win 10 games and get us to a bowl game and get us to a playoff in 3 or 4 years, and even if you can win 10 games a season, we're getting rid of you. I mean,
you mean people get impatient?
Yeah, I mean, Mark Richt got a good long leash, but even still, after another 10-win season, they yanked the thing on him. Now it worked to our advantage because we got Kirby Smart. But do you think that that's a big thing that's going on in the college programs now?
Absolutely, and it's a problem of, do you know your place in this world, or are you living in the past? There's a couple programs out there that are down, that probably have the ability to get back into the prominence that, like you said, all their boosters remember. You can think of a Southern Cal right now, what's going on with Lincoln Riley. You could probably say that Texas probably has enough to eventually build something legit. But when you're talking about schools like Nebraska, when you're talking about schools like, I'm going to say this, Michigan, all right, you got to know who are you, like Notre Dame. We're not talking about the early 90s anymore, where you were the dominant teams that everyone knew about, and everyone wanted to watch Oklahoma versus Nebraska and some of those games, where the game has changed. It has become a game of the South and where that talent is and that speed is. Look who's the only coach that's been successful nationally to compete on a national level in the Big Ten. And that was Urban Meyer taking the SEC system and saying, I could implement it in Ohio. And he has. You've got Michigan, and it's like, they're never going to be able to see this. All right. But you could say, hey, Jim Harbaugh winning 10, 11 games is our ceiling. Because look, when we go play in a top 4 game, we get the doors blown off us and we show that we don't belong, and it's like, that's how I look at the Big Ten right now, where like, unless you are able to find a system that can compete with what is happening in college football, you got to know who you are to be satisfied. At a school like I look to watch here, it's like, if you win 8, 9 games, that is your ceiling, and you're doing something good. You get occasional 10-win runs. Man, that's the best. That is the top that you can be. But you got to know that, and that's very hard for fans in collegiate sports to admit.
Yeah. Especially in the social media era.
Absolutely.
I mean, social media movement to get a coach fired these days just as quick as a bad season. So,
yeah.
But we keep this thing moving on along here. We got a little off the beaten path, so we're just going to touch on a couple of games here. Missouri loses to K-State. We pretty much expected that. They fall to 1-1. Next up, they are playing a team that sounds like a high school football academy, the Abilene Christian Wildcats. We had to look this up. They're actually an FCS team that plays in the Western Athletic Conference, but that's who they got on deck next week. I want to talk. Auburn managed to barely stave off San Jose State.
Harsin is a dead man walking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he manages to cobble together something, like I said, nothing short. I don't think there's nothing short of him winning the Iron Bowl and at least playing in the SEC championship game. Yeah, I know, right?
Put your house for sale now, then.
No, oh my God. This just in, we just got this in off the video text line in response to my comment.
What?
Yeah, so yeah, but I mean, we know that's not going to happen, but that's what he's going to have to do to save his job. He tried to put this 2-quarterback system together. Each one of the quarterbacks wound up throwing a pick apiece. Finley wound up being the determining factor, the winning factor when he ran in that game-winning touchdown. Let's see what else we got here. Tennessee and Pitt. Tennessee looked halfway decent. Now we're taking into account that Slovis went out after the first half, and
yeah, exactly.
Slovis went out in the first half.
They look halfway decent,
and then Nick Patty got hobbled at some point between the third and fourth quarter, so he was kind of playing on half a leg. Sounds a little bit like a game we talked about a little bit earlier. The only difference is the outcome. Actually, no, the outcome was exactly the same. The team with the hurt quarterback wound up falling just short. Next up, Tennessee's 2-0. They're playing Akron, expecting that's going to be. I'm expecting that to win. I think we predicted that they were going to win that game. Let's see, what other games did we not touch on? Oh, I know which game we wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about this guy right here.
Opportunities there in that first half, but you're only down by 4. What was your message?
We can't play any worse than that, I don't think. I mean, it's my first game. Maybe we can.
Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers welcome their neighbor across the street, up the street and around the corner, the Southern University Jaguars. It wound up being all LSU all the time. If you watched the show last week, I definitely said this was a game that LSU unequivocally, without question, without fail, had to win and be dominant doing it. They couldn't come in and half-ass it. They had to go in and they as Denzel Washington said, break my foot off in your John Brown hind parts, and then make you run a mile. And that's exactly what they did. But nothing, and it was nice to see nice to see one of the bands that originally started playing neck and can really playing it on national television. So shouts out to the Human Jukebox from Southern University that really put that thing down. But that was you're right about that, Sean. That was one of the best motivating factors ever. Those boys needed to go out there and see, hey, look, we are good enough. We can do this. Now, granted, they did this against – I'm not knocking the HBCUs. The HBCUs are starting to come up, but they haven't quite got there yet. But they went out there and they did what they were supposed to do. They played hard. They played through every play, dominant on both sides of the ball. I mean, so I can't –
All right, Anthony, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
When Sean was on the show and you all were doing your predictions, okay, so I came in kind of late and I was trying to follow what was happening. You predicted a team beating LSU, and I thought you were talking about Southern doing it. Which game did you say that was going to beat LSU? Because that's when I hit you with the GTFU right now. GTFO. I was like, when I heard, I'm like, get that. So what game did you predict?
It may have been Southern. And I'm looking.
I thought I heard you say Southern's going to beat LSU. I'm like, what?
No.
I just threw
He
that
was
out
just
there.
going against the grain.
That's not even going against the grain. That's drinking the grain right there. Is all
That's
No, I take that back. You're right. I did pick Southern, but I picked Southern just to go against the grain because I didn't. Listen. I know Southern wasn't going to beat LSU. I knew that, but
You didn't say that.
Sean picked them. I did say that. Sean picked them to win. Alan picked them to win. I said, I'm gonna throw Southern the bone. I'm going against the grain. That's exactly what well, I'm gonna have to go back and check that because I sometimes be thinking I'd be saying names right, and then Sean hit me with, I say John Smith, and he'd be like John Smythe? Question mark. So I'm gonna go back and check that. Sean will probably go back and have the clip for me before the show.
He's already validating me down here.
Yeah. So
comments.
definitely. I did pick Southern to win that one, but they did what they needed to do. Because if they didn't win that game Saturday, they only have 2 out of conference games after that, and they play in the West. They're playing Alabama, who Nick Saban is going to run his guys in the ground. He probably ran them in the ground yesterday because he was mad over the horns. When he said over the horns down, he said, "Don't do that, S," because somebody threw horns down. And he's going to run them in the ground. You got Jimbo Fisher, who's mad. He's going to be running his guys in the ground. You got Brian Harsin, who is coaching for his life and his career. You got Ole Miss, who's trying to prove that they can still win without Matt Corral. You got our guy Will Rogers. Missouri's in the East. Missouri's in the East. I'm gonna calm down. I'll roll that back. But you got all of these games that they're playing. They're playing Murderers Row from now to the end stretch. And there's no let up. So they needed that win because if they even squeaked by that game and lost that game yesterday, as our good friend Uncle Lou would say, your season is over. So a good win for them. We're gonna keep this thing moving on along here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I think we touched on all the major games that took place this week. We want to move on to another one of our segments here, and we call it the plays of the week. Where is it? There it is. I'm sorry, I stuttered. I was trying to buy time because I couldn't find the mouse. So where is it? Play dog on it. The play of the week for me, hands down. I saw a lot of plays. The play of the week for me, hands down. I don't like to give this team a lot of props just because we have somewhat become arch enemies over the course of the last several years. But Bryce Young, say what you want to say about him. Sometimes he has some moments of brilliance. And that fourth quarter scramble to avoid that sack because the defender had him dead to rights. And he was able to duck under and scramble for about 7 or 8 yards to keep the drive alive. Almost, kind of, sort of, almost. Don't get your heads blown up. Bama fans wanted to give him honorable mention player of the week for just leading that 2-minute drill down the field for that win. Anybody else got anything that they want to throw on top of that for player of the week?
You go, and then I'll go.
Okay, I'll go. No, I mean, and it's funny.
Y'all look like that Spider-Man meme. We're all pointing at each other.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, I was actually going to say same thing, really. Before yours came out, I mean, he had several dimes that he threw. But yeah, that Bryce Young, just that 2 minute or less than 2 minutes. I knew when Texas scored, they left too much time on the clock because I knew Bryce Young, and he let him right down the field, and then that was just icing on the cake when he sidestepped that rusher, that linebacker, or maybe it was the end. But yeah, he had him dead to rights and just made a sharp, juke, and there he was, and that was a score. But yeah, I would say several of yours passes were the downs he threw, and then actually that minute and a half, whatever, come back for Bryce Young.
Okay. All right, and then so we're gonna move on to our next.
Do I get to talk?
My bad. I'm not used to having a third.
You're not used to having a guest. That's okay. The reason why that is the play of the week is because of what it does for his team. It keeps them in the national contending running, but most importantly for me, it's because it prevents what could have been a bad loss. It's okay if you lose at the end of the season sometimes if it's against a good team. We've seen that in the championship game. Yeah. But now I'm saying this also because Sean's been paying attention. When Texas ends the season at 6-6 and 7-5, had Alabama lost that game, that would look bad when we look back and say, oh, wait, Texas is not back They were just really motivated for one game, and they put it all together. So that's why I think it's so huge to come out of Austin with that victory.
And you mentioned that. I wonder how they're going to play the next couple of games. I mean, did they kind of did it take everything out of the wind out of their sails, or I mean, are they still going to have that drive, to play their next opponents?
I think that will motivate the heck out of them. I mean, especially now that their guy is not going to be able to play for 4 to 6 weeks, and Hudson Card, depending on how bad he was, because he had to get an MRI after the game. He might be on limited duty, so they might have to go to a backup behind him as well. So I think it's really going to be a motivator for the guys. But I made the joke. I made the joke in the chat. Can Texas say this?
We're back.
Honestly, I think the way that they played. Quinn Ewers still healthy. Auburn doesn't miss that kick. The irony that a guy named Auburn missed a kick in a game against Alabama. Kick six, anyone? So I think those two factors, that game goes a different way. Now, we know we can't play the what-if game, but, I mean, it is what it is. That's what we're looking at. So those are our plays of the week. We're going to move on to our next segment real quick. Yeah, like Florida did last year. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right there, Godfather. We're going to move on to our next segment, and then we're going to get into our final segment, close the show out. This is a little segment where we pick out some players that were outstanding in their field this week. We've already talked about Bryce Young, so here are your This Week in SEC Football Players of the Week. I'm really excited about my new graphics. I love them. They're absolutely awesome. Will, we're gonna let you go first, so I don't forget to let you talk.
I'm going with, and I predicted this. Will Levis is my player of the week for elevating his team up, going into the swamp, and kind of shutting people up, because people were sitting there saying, look at Florida, we got this new coach, we got this quarterback, they're top 10 team, here we go. And Kentucky came in and said, don't you forget about us. We've been doing this consistently, 9-10 wins for the last couple of years. We've got seniors on this team. We got players we've lost some guys in the NFL, and we're retooling. And Will Levis said, think of me come April. And he came out and played.
Oh, so basically what you're saying is that Will Levis gets the Usher Award of the week?
Yes.
All right. Then.
Absolutely.
All right, Colin, we're coming to you, sir. Who you got for the player of the week?
Yeah, that's in Carr, man. Just to be able to come in and a high profile game like that, and your star quarterback goes out, and you come in, and it seemed to me like he didn't miss a beat. I think that the next play, I think he had a gainer. I don't know if it was a handoff or maybe he had to scramble, but I mean, memory serves. I mean, he didn't miss a beat. Like, honestly, he came on the field, and they continued driving. They were driving before Ewers went out, and they continued driving. And I would give him my player of the week for somebody who comes off the bench and performs. Like the starter didn't even get into. Like the starter was still out there.
Yeah, I definitely had him on my list. I definitely had him on my list. I know that last week I talked about this guy as one of the honorable mentions for players of the week, but you took Hudson Card off my list. I'm going back to the guy, Bumper Pool. Bumper Pool. Every time you turn around, Bumper Pool was there. 3 sacks, including that 16-yarder. Like, he sacked Rattler for like 16 yards during the drive where they were pushing the ball down the field, looking like gaining good momentum, and communication broke down. And Spencer Rattler, one of the things about Spencer Rattler that I've noticed is he doesn't really have much of and correct me if I'm wrong, he doesn't really seem to have much in the way of spidey sense like a lot of quarterbacks do. Just being able to step up in the pocket when their peripheral says, okay, I just saw 3 guys go by me, let me step up in the pocket. Hey, I can feel the footsteps coming, let me step this way and juke or duck or whatever, like Bryce Young did. His spidey senses were shut all the way off, and then he looked up and he had So I'm going with Bumper Pool again this week as my player of the week. So Hudson Card, what can you say about him? I mean, any guy that plays hobbled. He got hurt, and he's like, "Nope, I got this is my squad. I'm putting them on my back, and if we don't win, and if we don't win at the end of the day, I'm putting it all on me because I'm leaving everything on the field." So I definitely, yeah, 100%. So that's a great segment.
I was going to go ahead and mention about Bumper Pool. With a name like Bumper Pool, he should be player of the week every week. Love the name. Bumper Pool, man. And with a name like that, man, come on. And being a good player. That's awesome.
You had a question you wanted to ask, Will, about the game coming up this week.
Yeah, I want to help me know who is on this Georgia team that we should be watching or be fearful of. You know, you guys had so many people that went to the pros. Honestly, I mean, I'm looking at your roster and I'm like, I don't know who these guys are.
Well, we brought back while the run game has not been established yet. I haven't really seen much out of Kendall yet. I don't know if it's because he's still a little fearful of his leg that he hurt last year. We haven't seen anything of Branson Robinson yet. He got maybe 3 snaps in the opener against Oregon. I don't know if they're holding him back because he's a freshman, or maybe Kirby's just not trying to show his full hand until he gets in the conference play, which he played very smartly last year. I mean, Stetson is playing like a much better, much more mature quarterback. He's still not a top tier, but he's definitely moved up to the second tier. For me, he was a third-tier quarterback that played well and played just well enough to not lose us any games, but was determined enough to not make the same mistakes repeatedly. But now, for me, he's moved up to second tier. The receiving core, I mean, my God, you got Big O back.
Darnell Washington.
Yeah, you got Darnell Washington back. He's like 6'12", and he runs like a 4.6, and he can hurdle. He's hurdling people out there on the field. You got Brock Bowers back, who was a true freshman last year. You got Lab McConkey, who's got all the spit, piss, fire, and vinegar in him. He's a returning true sophomore. You got A.D. Mitchell, who is also a returning sophomore. You got Eric Gilbert back. He's still a work in progress, I think. But those are the weapons that I've seen so far. I thought the running back. Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
No, I was going to say that's the offense, and our defense, is still a work in progress. Those are the guys we lost mainly to the NFL. So we lost, I think it was 5 of our prolific starters there, I think. Yeah. But they're still kind of young. Our front seven is a little bit, it's taking a little bit to get accustomed to things. But we still have. I mean, I don't think they've taken a step back or as many steps back as people think. We're still trying to get them, up to speed. But that's the only thing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
For me, the front seven is not as stout as it was, but the secondary has definitely stepped up. I mean, you saw Christopher Smith, who got the pick 6 in the Clemson game last year. He got a pick 6 in the opener against Oregon. Keely Ringo is back, but Keely Ringo didn't really get a chance to spotlight at all because you had the pick 6, and then on the other side you had Malachi Starks, who had huge interception. So those 3 in the secondary alone. That's enough to want to. I mean, you guys Spencer's going to have to look out for them because they're really good at. Keely's good at jumping routes. Keely is really good at. He and Chris Smith to go good at jumping routes. So I got. Let's see what we got here. What makes them good? What makes? Oops.
Yeah, so if South Carolina's going to be focused on like Jaheim Bell and Austin Stogner, then who's going to cover those guys?
Which one of those guys is your deep threat?
Those are 2 tight ends.
Those are 2 tight ends. That'll probably be somebody that Chris Smith would be picking up because that was Chris Smith would be picking up out of front. Now your deep threats,
safety,
your deep threats. That's gonna be Keely and Malachi all day. To answer your question, Sean, about what makes those guys good, Stetson, like I said, is matured. He's definitely his pocket presence is. He kind of last year he was a little herky jerky. I won't say happy feet quite, but he's a little herky jerky. It's like, got to run because this is what's going on. Now he sees the pocket collapsing instead of taking off, and I saw this in the game against Oregon. He just took a couple steps to the side and up to the front, kept his eyes on his routes, dived down the field. As far as McConkey has got for a guy that little, and he's probably not really little. He's probably just little in comparison to his teammates. He's probably like 5'11", 6 feet tall. Stupid, crazy speed for a guy. Sneaky speed is what I want to call it. They ran him on a couple of jet sweeps.
Is he a slot guy?
Yeah, I think he's a slot receiver. Yeah.
No wonder why Sean likes him.
Yeah, 100%. Bowers. The thing that makes Bowers great is Bowers has the size and speed. He's one of those. At one point they were the defense. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I'm talking about the offense right now, sir. But the thing that makes Bowers good. I'm talking about the offense, so deal with it right now, boo boo. I'll come down to it in a minute. Bowers is one of those guys that's built like what was at one point considered the prototypical tight end, where you had the guy who was big enough to be a blocker, but he could break out on a route. And I mean, he was our leading receiver last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the leading receiver last year. I think
he's like a baby Gronk. Like he throw the ball up, he'll go down.
Yeah, he'll go up and challenge for jump balls in the whole nine. And then as far, like I said, those are the things that make those guys good. As far as the defense, I've talked about this before. Ringo last year as a true freshman had a goodly amount of football smarts. And by that, I mean, you don't ever really want to see a guy commit a penalty. You don't really want to see a guy commit a penalty. But this is when I said this guy's got this football smarts. I was like, how come this guy keeps getting flagged? So I started watching him. Pro football, pass interference, spotted a foul. College football, 15-yard penalty.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And with the defense they had last year, we kept everybody inside their own 30, maybe their 40 for most of the season. So you're only giving up a play to the 50 where the defense can readjust and shut plays down. But he's also really good at one thing else I noticed about him. He's good at playing defense, watching the receiver, and then turning to make a play, which is what we saw in Malachi Starks against Oregon last week. So those are the things. Those are the things to me that stand out about those guys. And then Chris is the hell of a route jumper. So that's what I got from my defensive guys. As far as my front seven, I'm not really. We got our guy, a Savannah homeboy, Mr. Nolan Smith.
Yeah, Nolan Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the backup. Thank you for the backup, because we got the Godfather watching. Godfather, I do this for you. I want to make sure it's perfect so we get it right. Nolan Smith, who played for Savannah Christian, transferred to IMG, who is emerging as one of the younger stars of the defense. And then who's the guy that they said that they compared to our number one draft pick there, Colin?
Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Hold on. You can't ask me. I told you, man. I cannot remember. But yeah, he is. What is his name? Hold on.
I see. Are you talking about nose or what? We got Carter and a guy named Logue?
Is it Lowe? Hold on.
Zion?
But one of them guys. One of my
younger guys. Yeah, he's like Trayvon.
There we go. We get the horn. Hey, air horn for show prep.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, we got several like Shmuel Mondon Jr. Like he had a lot of tackles. Like he's showing up. He's actually a junior, I think.
Yeah. So our front seven is really young, because that's where the bulk of our players that went to the NFL. We still have a very stout secondary, and we got enough offensive weapons. I'm interested to see next year what Kirby pulls out of the bag against you guys. To see what we got with the run game, because I really haven't seen much out of the run game yet. I haven't, and that's the other thing. I think with Stetson playing like he played last week, with the receiving core we have, with the secondary we've got, if we get that running back core going, it is a wrap. We do the Steph Curry on them, just like that. That's just my 2 cents. Now, can I be wrong? I said Southern was going to win Saturday. So, hey.
Well, so it's a 16-point spread right now. Are you taking the over or the under?
I'm going right at. I'm not going over or under. I would go right at. Because I
I'll
don't,
go
I don't, I don't do over and under. I don't do a lot of the wagering. I'm just like, we gonna win. That's it.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I think it will be over 16. I think it might be 20. I think.
I would take the over as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it'll be 30, 40.
I mean,
maybe,
with the-
maybe
I think it's over 16 is a blowout. I mean, if they keep it under 20, it's kind of like, but it's not. Doesn't mean it's competitive.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because we've easily seen a game. We've easily seen a 20-point get a 20-point swing in the go in the locker room and make some adjustments, and coach cuts a few guys out, and then the defense steps up and the offense starts running up and down. The Michael Williams, that's the guy that was compared to Trayvon Walker.
That's right, Williams. I'm sorry, yeah, that totally
I
blanked
don't
on
see him on your depth chart here. Number 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Williams, number 13, defensive line.
He's compared to Trayvon. Well, I was looking at D
Trayvon.
tackles. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna move into our final.
He looked all right on Sunday.
Yeah, he did. Oh, yeah, he did. He looked pretty decent. We're gonna move into our final segment, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. But before we do want to we have our guest here, Mr. Will Kramer from Washington Football Weekly, part of the Let's Talk Football family of shows. And there is a Googob of shows that is an actual measurement of I made it up on the spot, so it must be real. We have Googobs of shows here in the Let's Talk Football family. So just in case you want to know where to find them, here they are. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, your entire lineup of Let's Talk Football family of shows. And who knows, there may be some new ones coming because you never can tell. It's almost like it's like every time you turn around, it's like from the makers of Let's Talk Football.
Sean's got these ideas going.
Now coming soon to a platform near you. Let's Talk Football. Let's Talk Football, the after show. Like we just gonna be. It's gonna be
Sean needs to come up with a Sunday night one.
Sunday night. Oh man,
Sunday night after the NFL.
Dude, I already can't hang. I can't get up early enough on Saturday to watch the Saturday show because I'll be wiped out from working all week. And I feel bad, Sean. I'm gonna come back and check y'all out again this coming Saturday. But we're gonna move into our next segment, ladies and gentlemen. Our final segment here on This Week in SEC Football, the 2-minute warning. That's where we just, we come up with something that it could be happy, it could be sad, it could be inspirational, it could be something that you might be wanting to bring awareness to. So, as our guest, Will, please, what do you have for the 2-minute warning today?
I'm just gonna say, because this hit home this week, we went in for a well check on my baby, and he came in as a well check with cough, walked out with COVID, and changed our whole weekend and all this stuff. So I'm just gonna say, everyone, stay diligent. I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna get political on y'all, but do what you can to be safe. And just remember that everyone is still affected this in other ways, and like for my family now, we're out 10 days from work because the baby's got to be home. So just kind of everyone stay safe out there and remember that there are still folks that have to take this serious, and it's hard for them to jump back into their lifestyle. And just so make wise choices out there.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Colin, what you got for us, brother from another?
Prayers to your baby, man. I know everything's gonna be all right. Will, I'm assuming it is. Yeah, I know how that is. I have a special needs kid myself, and when this thing's popped off, man, you talking about worry, but we made it through as well as some have and some haven't. But yeah, I can echo that. Yeah, be diligent. Take care of yourself and each other. I'm trying to think of really. I'm just happy it's football season, man. You know what I mean? And to put it on top of be careful and and take care of each other. Just enjoy the football season, and enjoy it, hang out with your friends, and make the best of the time you have with them and the family. And that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, well, this for me, this one is my 2 minute warning this week is back in 1984. Those of you old enough to remember that they're under the sound of my voice, there was a minister by the name of the Right Reverend Jesse Jackson who ran for president of the United States. And he said, and his tagline was, "Our time has come." Okay. So the thing was, and one of the things that he always said was, if you can conceive it and you can believe it, you can achieve it. So believe in what it is that you have going on. And this is going all the way back to about 30 minutes ago when we were talking about the Sun Belt Conference. I'm shouting out the Sun Belt Conference for my 2 minute warning because they went into 3. Number one, it's hard enough to go into somebody else's stadium and beat them. Number 2, it's hard enough. It's hard to go into a Power 5 stadium and beat them at their home crowd. And Marshall, Appalachian State, and Georgia Southern went into hostile environments and said, "We ain't taking no wooden nickels. Call me Petty because my first name is Tom because I won't back down. Everybody sit down. We bringing the Uptown Funk to funk you up." I'm making all these music references because I'm a DJ. Shouts out to the Sun Belt Conference because, for all of these other teams that are watching, there's all kinds of programs that are watching this and going, we could do that too. So that's a big shout out to the Sun Belt Conference for giving us a very exciting weekend of not just football within the SEC. Sorry for your bad luck, Jimbo Fisher. I'm not rubbing it in because I know what goes around, comes all the way back around. We're not going to do that. Justin Timberlake for you. There goes the DJ again. But just believe in what you got. So thank you, Sun Belt Conference, for doing that for us. I don't even know where the heck I was going with that. That was supposed to be good.
Well, I'm gonna add something to you guys. Not only did they win, they cashed a big fat check too. So.
Yes, sir. Look. You come in. I got a bag of money for you. All you gotta do is lay down. Let me beat on you a little bit. Now it's gonna hurt. You gonna get talked about, but we gonna take care of you. And they was like, "Hell with that."
No. Thank you, but no.
We went in there. Now, like Chris Rock said, I'm getting some extra cheese on my Whopper today. Oh my God. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys, stop it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that does it for this week's edition of This Week in SEC Football. I don't know what the hell is wrong with me this week. We appreciate y'all for tuning in today. We thank you, Mr. Will Kramer. Y'all can catch Will on Wednesday nights with the Godfather, Sean Spencer, on Washington Football Weekly on one of the 18 shows. We're waiting on the clearance from, I think it's TBS. They're going to start a different syndicate. They're going to start a separate network, and they're going to call it TBS, LTF, and all of our shows are going to be on there. Y'all check them out on Wednesdays. They'll be there. On behalf of myself, Mr. Fingers from Zagnev Central, that guy right there, Colin P. from the DMV, we have been This Week in SEC Football, and we will catch you next time. Go Dogs!
Go Dogs.
This is where you do your thing. What is it y'all say? I don't know.
Go Cox.
Bye, y'all.